Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host, HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And today we are finishing off the Spider-Man marathon with the MCU Spider-Man series. And yes, we should probably start with this. We will be talking about No Way Home in this video, and we are gonna spoil it rotten, but we will tell you when we are going to talk about No Way Home, so that in case you didn't see it, just saying you should, you go to that will be your
It's terrible.
that will be shut up. That will be your chance to go to the theaters, watch it, experience it, and then come back. But before we talk about No Way Home, let's talk about MCU Spider-Man in general, and that kind of includes, his cameos in Captain America: Civil War and the two latest Avengers movies, and of course his own films, Homecoming and No Way and Far From Home, and then No Way Home comes later. So Wolf, as
Hmm.
the newbie Spider-Man person, what did you think about Tom Holland, the MCU Spidey?
Different. He's.
Different.
I mean, there's. This is hard. I mean, it's kind of. It feels like a cross between uh Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Is that correct?
Yes.
It feels like a bit of both of them, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not Andrew Garfield's quick quippiness, but it's also not Tobey Maguire's crying all the time.
Yeah, he's somewhere in the middle.
Like it's a good middle ground. I feel like that's not a bad thing. It's just you're not getting what I feel is a great Spider-Man, but you're also not getting a terrible Spider-Man, and you're not getting a terrible Peter Parker. But I'm not entirely sure if it fits Peter Parker, if you will. Like it works.
Really?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like I guess it's kind of that new age nerd, I suppose you could say. I don't know. Like, how do you do nerds anymore? Who cares?
He's obviously not the same nerd as they were in the 50s or 60s
I mean,
when
I
Spider-Man
think the
debuted, but
I think the problem is it's like this Peter Parker is still in high school and he doesn't feel like it at all.
really,
Not to me, even though like you see the school, like this doesn't feel like a teenager
I
technically.
think this is the most teenage Parker we ever got in
I don't know.
films.
It doesn't feel that way to me. I don't know why. It just doesn't.
Weird, because I'd say that out of all the Spider-Man, we've obviously there was not much focus on him in high school
Mm.
in the other series, but like this one, I think felt the most like a high school student because we also see that, with the exception of being Spider-Man, he's also dealing with high school stuff. We also
Maybe I'm
see,
just
and
old
he's
and I
trying
don't
to
get it no
balance
more.
it. Hmm?
Maybe I'm just old
Hmm?
and I don't get it no more.
I don't know.
It
Like
just I don't know. I don't know how to explain it or to tell you, but it doesn't he doesn't feel like that, teenager, right? It just doesn't. He feels older than that. And maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. I don't know. But he feels like he's older than what he's supposed to be, right? If that makes sense.
I don't know. Do you honestly surprised me? I don't know how to react. Like, wh- where
I
did this
don't know
come
what to tell
from?
you. It feels off to me somehow. I'm not quite sure why that is, but to me it just like I see he's in high school. I get it, but there's like a small or slight disconnect there for me, and I don't know why that is. It's I'll be honest, like
Okay.
talking of one of Tom Holland's other roles, it's him playing Nathan Drake. That feels off too.
No, this one I agree with you. Him as Nathan Drake. For the record, the Uncharted movie is not out yet, but just from he felt off to me on that role.
Like
Just
maybe the full movie will be better, but I've seen the trailer for that. Like that also feels off, but that's probably not a good example because you agree with me. So I don't know.
yeah.
I don't.
Because I'll tell you what. Because I'll tell you what. The problem I have with him being a Nathan Drake is that he seems too young to be Nathan Drake. He
Yeah,
doesn't look old enough to be Nathan Drake. So, and I want to say that part of it is because I've seen him in roles like Spider-Man, in roles, that even if he can play tough, he can still sell the kid. He can still sell the teenager. So that's weird. That's weird. Don't get me wrong. It's interesting to hear you say that, but it's just. I wonder, because if this is your thoughts on him, then what are your thoughts on the movies in general?
I hate them.
Okay, let's be serious here,
No, I mean,
please.
I don't know, right? Like, I like him. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with him. It just, I don't know. There's just that disconnect for me, and I'm not quite sure what it is or why it is, to be honest. It just feels a little off. Like, I don't know. It's very much a thing I feel of. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it to you. I just don't. It just feels slightly off to me. That's all I can tell you.
Okay. Well, so with that being said, I'll just say that I really like Tom Holland's Spidey. I wish that, because you see hints of it, that there are moments where I wish he would be a bit more quippy,
Mhm.
because he can do it. He can deliver the quips. We see him do it in plenty of the movies, but it just feels like again, with Tobey Maguire, they don't really give him that chance all the time. But overall, also that he has different kinds of quips. Like,
Mhm.
if Andrew Garfield's quips were more, were just, jokey, his quips seem to be more just trying to calm himself by talking about the situation, which it's interesting. It's an interesting take, honestly,
Mhm.
because it is kind of it is kind of a thing in Spider-Man in the comics, where the reason he jokes is that that's how he keeps calm during those situations he gets himself into.
Mhm.
So it's an interesting way of showing it. So I think in terms of like the Spider-Man himself, I think I prefer Andrew slightly more, but Tom Holland is still great. And like in overall, like when I see him as both Peter and Spider-Man, and combine, and walking that thin line between being both, I think he's the best of the live action ones.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think he does. I think he stands out amongst them. I would say, right? He does a great job overall. Like,
Yeah.
my weirdness aside, I suppose he does a really good job in both roles. I feel.
Mhm. So, speaking of which, his first appearance was in Captain America Civil War,
No one cares. He
which
was in there for like 5 minutes, if that.
it was still his first appearance, and a lot of people got their taste of him in that movie. So, I think it is kind of important to talk about him, though.
He was there.
You know,
Moving on.
okay, just
I'm
a
picky.
few quick notes,
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
One thing I want to point out is that if you noticed in Civil War that whenever they want to show you a new location, they will have like the name of the location just plastered all over the screen.
Yeah, a lot
Like,
of movies do that now, unfortunately.
no, but like they put it like front and center, huge in front of your eyes. And the directors of the movie actually said in the commentary track that the sole reason they did it so that they could have this big queens on screen, so that you'll know Spider-Man is coming. So that's an interesting thing
I
to
mean,
note.
I don't know. I think it's a little belittling. Like, oh, people
No,
can't
I agree
tell
with.
what a place is just by looking at it. We can.
Yeah.
It's Queens. How would you not recognize it?
Well, I don't live in the US, so excuse me for being an
I mean,
idiot regarding.
fair in that regard, but I don't know. I feel like you at least understand that you're probably in New York by the way it looks.
Mhm.
And based
Okay,
on that, all
but
right, maybe Spider-Man.
okay, so we get this Queen's shot, and then now come on, we're introduced to two things that carry on for the Spider-Man. One, what do you think of Marissa Tomei as Aunt May?
She's fine. I don't see nothing wrong with that. Like,
No, I
it's a
don't.
different it's a different take, right? It's Uncle Ben's already gone. You have young Aunt May at this time around instead of old Aunt May or kind of
Yeah,
old
because
Aunt May.
They did, a lot of people. Honestly, it also I kind of did a double take too when I saw it. It's like that's Aunt May, huh?
Yeah,
But
I did as well.
at the same time, I kind of learned to like it, as because someone pointed out that if she's supposed to be, if Ben is supposed to be his father's brother, then why would she be? Then why would May be, two generations above him? That's so I enjoyed it. I enjoyed like a slightly younger May who was also kind of like, you see also in Far From Home that
I mean,
they go off stage and like they high five each other and they have this almost like they're obviously aunt and nephew, but they'll have this
connection,
kind of
this
yeah, they have this
relationship.
like sibling thing, or
No, no, don't say
even
that.
mother and son,
Yeah,
or
I
like
mean,
even
mother and
mother and
son, like
son.
they're close. You
Yeah.
can tell they're close. You can tell like she gets it to some degree, anyways.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the
Yeah.
same time, if all you've ever seen is just the movies, it's a nice change of pace. There you go, English.
Mhm.
I know it. So yeah, I mean,
You
I'm
should.
fine with it.
Okay.
I think it's
Yeah.
good. I see
Okay.
nothing wrong with her in the role. I thought she did great.
Yeah. Now, so I guess this is kind of leading us to the next thing. What do you think about the fact there's no Uncle Ben?
I'm fine with that. Means we don't have to do the death scene again. Like, let's not do the Batman thing and continuously kill off Uncle Ben in every film that Spider-Man needs to be in because we need to do that. Let's not. Let's just avoid that. We don't need
You
to do it.
see,
So who cares?
for Civil War,
And plus,
yeah, go
go ahead.
ahead.
I
Okay.
am. You go ahead. Since we're talking about Civil War, I'll save it.
So in regards to Civil War, I'd say this. I agree with you that we didn't need it there, and also they actually, it's not the line, and you can tell this is like it's not the line. But when Peter says, when you can do the things I can, and you don't, and then the bad stuff happens, it's like you caused them yourself. And so it kind of sets you up with one sentence. It kind of sets you on his motivation to being Spider-Man, and also it kind of implies something happened to him. Something happened, and that something is Uncle Ben. So
I don't know. Like they
I don't.
never even reference Uncle Ben or bring it up. And
There
considering
now comes my problem.
Hurt and other
Like
things and you know other movies, no spoilers, it's weird if that would
so,
be the case.
So here's what I'm saying. We kind of know, like they confirm as like a behind the scenes stuff, and off record interviews. Uncle Ben was a thing in the MCU. Uncle
Oh,
Ben is a
okay.
person who was married to May and died, and obviously kind of sets Peter on the road to becoming Spider-Man. But
Okay.
my problem here is that in Civil War, I had no problem with them not referencing it. I had no problem with them just hinting at it because it's not Spider-Man's movie yet. The movie isn't about Spider-Man. Spider-Man is just in it for a bit. My problem comes kinda. It's not a deal breaker for MCU Spidey, and because I've seen people bring it up like it is, but that they have places in Spidey's own movies, specifically Homecoming and Far From Home, that they could bring it up. They could just say, not necessarily
Really?
show.
I don't think so.
No, there are places that you could like. It may require a small rewrite or something, but there are places you could have shoved like maybe a line or a small flashback or something that could say he lost his uncle, he feels guilty, he decided to fight crime now,
I mean,
and take responsibility for his powers.
I mentioned it in one of our previous Spider-Man videos. I feel like Tony's supposed to be the stand-in for Uncle Ben at first until he
Yeah.
passes, and that's like his Uncle Ben moment. And then
Mhm.
you kind of have the villains in Spider-Man being good, or being not good, but being teacher figures. Not so much father figures, but teacher figures, like that
Yeah.
that teach Peter a lesson. Like looking at Homecoming, Vulture is someone who definitely teaches Peter, a lesson. Like Peter learns from fighting him and dealing with him.
Yeah,
in
and
regards
I
to
actually in
why
that
he does
movie
what he
I
does.
really like. Yeah, I really like that contrast because at the end of the day, both of them are like the small. They're like the little guy in this big universe where you have the other superheroes and you have Tony Stark and all those guys. So Peter is like the young impressionable kid who wants to prove himself. He wants to show that he can roll with these other guys because he's done it in his eyes. He was there fighting Captain America. And so he wants to prove that he can do more than that. And
Mhm.
on the other hand, there's Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, who is more like, he's the experienced guy. It's just, I don't care that they are there. I need to make a living. I need to, I have a family to take care of.
Again,
I
it,
need,
it
and you can also, they're both the small guy,
mhm.
but you can tell their age difference and experience in life are
Yeah.
not in the same place.
And it also
And
it
Peter
gives you,
learns from it.
yeah, yeah, I agree. And it also gives you that thing that I've personally very much enjoyed about Marvel of, showing you the more down to earth and grounded perspective of a world inhabited by superheroes with superpowers that can literally destroy the entire universe or world or the earth itself and stuff like that. And this is just a construction worker who was screwed over and by essentially the superheroes, even though that's not what the superheroes intended or meant to happen. He was, and so he found a way to get by and do things, uh, you know, that helped him and his family because that's who he was looking after and needed to provide for was his family.
Mm-hmm. By the way,
So
if we are on that subject, when I was watching Homecoming for the first time, I was like, they keep saying that this guy. I enjoyed Michael Keaton as the Vulture. Honestly, Vulture was always kind of like an underrated favorite villain of mine. Like
yeah,
I liked him, but I could tell. But I saw a lot of people kind of shit on him because he is kind of ridiculous in the old comics. But then I saw him and it's like I really like what they did with the suit and his motivation and stuff. But I also like he keeps saying he has a family, but we never see the family. It's just like a screenwriter just remembered, all right, I need a
wait,
family. He does this for
we do see
and
his family.
sudden
Oh, okay.
yeah. Again, first time true, first time
Got you,
true.
got you.
And then all of a sudden we get to Peter taking Liz out and like he opens the door and like I've seen Homecoming twice in theaters and at that point everyone goes silent. Everyone is like, holy shit.
Yep.
Because it's a legit good twist. Nobody sees it coming.
I mean, I caught on pretty quick, but it's fair. Like if it's not everyone's gonna catch that as quickly as others, which is fair. It's a neat little moment, and it ties it all
But
together instead of him just mentioning it and us never getting to see them. And
yeah.
and also
Uh,
again, like it's a great little talk between him and Peter when they're in the car, and he's like,
yeah,
"Hey,
in the car. And also when he says good old Spider-Man and the street light changes from red to green on his face, it's like, moi, genius.
mm. And also him telling him like I'm not gonna do anything because you saved my daughter's life once, so just go in there, have a fun time, and we'll forget everything, and we can both move on with our lives." But again,
And
it
this,
shows
this
that
is
Peter can't
something,
do it.
yeah. So this is the point, just regarding this scene, regarding that moment. One criticism I keep seeing of the MCU, and I get where those people are coming from, but this is the scene where I'm like, no, you're wrong if this is your main problem, that Spidey is a bit too much of Iron Man's kind of sidekick, and that he's only doing things just to impress Tony. And like at the beginning of Homecoming, yes, but also I think people miss that this is the idea. It's supposed to be a flaw that he's doing this just to impress Tony, just to get in with the Avengers, just to be a part of this bigger picture. It's a flaw. It's something he learns from, and by this point in the car, Tony already took away his suit. He tells them, "You're not associated with me anymore. You're done. Our partnership is officially over." So, and when Vulture gives him the opportunity, he tells him, "You get your chance to walk away. Don't ever, just show my daughter a good time. I'm giving you the chance to keep on living." And Peter doesn't do that. He goes after Vulture, and not just to impress Tony, but because he has nothing to do with it anymore. He just knows that this is the right thing to do. He needs to stop the bad guy.
Well, I mean,
So
even then, he still loses, though. And you still have that moment afterwards where he's trapped there and he's screaming for help. And then he,
yeah,
after a bit of thinking on it and pondering or,
yeah,
realization, I get that realization moment, he frees himself and then still goes after Vulture because he
yeah,
realizes that,
but
he's the hero. He can't be the one screaming for help.
yeah. Also, that scene where he's trapped under the rebel, kind of comic book fan here. This is a reference to the Amazing Spider-Man number 33, where this exact thing happens. The circumstances are obviously different, but it's taken from there. And I think they used it really well, especially where he tells himself, "Come on, Peter," and then he changes it to "Come on, Spider-Man," because, yeah, you are Spider-Man. You are a hero. Kick that guy's ass.
Now, I will say, you mentioned, a lot of people say the flaw of Homecoming is that Peter tries to be too much like Tony's sidekick. I say the flaw of Homecoming is Tony and Happy are just, I hate them in this film. I just do not like them in this film. Happy's just an absolute
No,
dick, and Tony's not
Happy,
much
I
better.
agree. Like, Happy, I agree with you because
I mean, Tony's designed to be an asshole,
yeah,
but you
yeah.
really feel the asshole in this film, and it's like,
I I
don't
kind of agree
don't
with
care.
you. I kind of agree with you. I kind of agree with you on this, but also I think it kind of comes from the way of he's supposed to be the parent. He's like kind of the
But if
step
that's the case,
parent
give
in a
him at
high
least
school
one
movie.
good moment, and they just don't,
Uh,
in my
I
opinion.
you know something, I would disagree. I would say that
If
when
you're gonna tell me
he
when he gives him the suit at the end, I'm gonna call
no 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 no
bullshit.
no 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 I the good thing I'm talking about is after the action scene on the ship
Hmm.
where he's talking to him and like Peter actually if you'd actually care you'd be here, and Tony steps out of the suit and tells him, "I did listen to you. I'm the one who called the FBI. Everyone said I'm insane for dragging a teenager into this. If someone died tonight, if somebody died out there, it would have been on you. But if you died, that will be on me." That's a great scene because it feels like a real conversation between, for like a better term, a father and son.
I get it. I don't know. It's just I don't feel like that entirely wipes away Tony just being an asshole for most of this film. Like I feel he's just too hard, in my opinion. But maybe he needs to be for Peter at that point. I don't know. It just to me it kind of rubbed me the wrong way somewhat, and I didn't enjoy it as much. But especially Happy. Happy, I just ugh. And then I'm
No,
supposed
Happy
to like him
was,
more in the next two films.
yeah,
That rubbed me the
Happy
wrong way too.
was, I guess. But actually, speaking of Happy, I love this scene. After the final fight and everything, where he's talking to Peter in the bedroom and tells him, "I have no idea what I would do without this job before I met on it." And then there's just this kid who used the bathroom,
Yeah,
and they're just standing there awkwardly. That was great. I love that.
yeah. Again, like these films nail humor when they do it. Most
Mhm.
of the time, some of
Uh,
it misses, but a lot of it does land and lands pretty well.
yeah. So, okay, two other things just introduced in Homecoming since we're getting the basic stuff out. What do you think of Ned? Personally, I love Ned.
It's
Ned is
great.
great.
That's fun. New character. He's fun. He's great.
He's not necessarily new.
Oh, he's
He
not new.
is a person from the comic because
Mm.
he becomes the Hobgoblin, which is like a copycat of the Green Goblin. But they're not necessarily besties in the comics, but he's a personality from the
Oh, well,
comics.
that makes
Even
a
if it,
certain joke more. Uh,
yeah,
I
I
have
know what
more
you're talking
info on a
about.
certain joke now.
I totally get what you mean, and we'll get to it. The one thing I will say though is that it did feel like when I first saw him, and I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, that they kind of gave him a Genki if to those who don't know, Ganke is Miles Morales' guy in the chair, if you will. So it's the kind of same nationality and the same body structure. So it's like, huh, huh.
Well, Into the
Interesting.
Spider-Verse came out after Homecoming, yeah?
It was a year after, yes.
Well, then it's really Into the Spider-Verse gave, you know,
Uh,
their
you
guy
know
a
that
Ned.
no, because I'm talking in regards to the comics. Ganke is
Oh,
a thing in the Miles Morales comic.
got you.
Yeah, it's not just a character they foddered for a few seconds in
Never
Into the
mind then.
Spider-Verse. So
Damn you,
so yeah, I like
comics.
Ned. I really like Ned, and also again when I first saw it, I saw it with two of my friends, and when the teacher catches them in the computer room, I'm just telling my friend, "Thank God he wasn't searching for porn," and then he goes, "I'm looking for porn," and I'm just like, "Ha!"
I mean,
Fun
to be
kid.
fair, it's funny because that's the most believable response you can give. Because anything, if
Yeah.
he tells the truth, that's just going to be nonsense.
No,
So
of course, he
it's
was
funny.
trying to also
It's a
cover
good joke.
Peter, but
Hmm.
yeah. And second thing, so Michelle Jones, aka MJ, what were your thoughts about her?
I mean, edgy badass. Woo. Listen,
Okay,
Zendaya, I think can be a great actress, but I've yet to see it. We'll get. I'll say this: No Way Home definitely improved my opinion of her. Homecoming, you're there, but I would like to see your character do more other than
that's
just be,
actually something.
you know, the resident pessimist or half optimist or just edgy, rebellious teen. Woo! I don't care about your rules.
It's not. I liked her a lot in Homecoming because she was just this random person who was there, and she wouldn't say much, she wouldn't do much, but like she was there and she left an impression, and I just thought in some sense she was hilarious. Like when after Peter talks to Vulture and is about to enter the school, so there was just this scene where she says him hi and then she flips him off. It's like, it's so, what was the point of this? I don't care, but it was hilarious to me.
It's just their version of MJ, and it's
Yeah,
better than
and
Kirsten
now come
Dunst. Fair play.
yeah, and
No
this is
offense to
the
Kirsten
point
Dunst,
because
but
yeah, but the thing is that I kind of liked her in Homecoming as her a new addition. Like they created a character for the movie. I'm like, okay, you know what? Fine. She's. I think she's funny. She's doing a good job. And then like they show that now the love interest is Liz
well, yeah, that's
because
right. They don't reveal her as MJ
yeah,
until late in the movie, don't they?
yeah, and because they have Liz, and it's like, oh, we like like we took down MJ, we took down Gwen, now we get Liz. Like we're really looking for the bottom of the barrel Spider-Man love interest now.
Oh, Liz is from the
It's,
comics too. Okay.
like I'll be honest, I know her more from the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon,
Hmm.
so
But she
take
is
it,
like
take
a
it.
character from the Spider-Man lore.
Yeah, she is from the Spider-Man lore. She
I guess
is
I should just not think that these characters are new ever and just assume they're from the lore somewhere deep,
uh,
deep, deep down
like
in there somewhere.
actually someone said that there's the Asian kid in Homecoming that's on the trip with them, like the Asian girl. People say that's Cindy Moon who becomes Slick, and I'm Silk, sorry, and I'm like,
I don't want to believe it.
that's such a random thing to just point out and not do
That's
anything
too.
with.
That's too. That's too conspiracy theory in the Marvel universe MCU stuff. It's no. I refuse. That is not. That is
Okay,
just a random kid that they have on the field trip. No, you're
yeah.
wrong, internet. If it becomes a thing, then come
No,
back
it's
and
not.
get me. But you're
That's the thing.
wrong,
It's not
internet.
internet. It's not internet. It's the script that says it. It's like
Wait, that's an actual thing. Fuck me. No, not allowed. Marvel, stop it. Stop it.
Although I will say, if you want to give me a Silk movie, Marvel, I would be more than up for
I
it
mean, I'm down
because
for
Silk
it, but
is cool.
stop it. No, bad Marvel. You can't be going
Okay.
this deep. No.
Yeah. Anyway, back to so I'm like, okay, so we're doing Liz Allen, fine. Actually, it's Liz Toombs in here because she's the daughter of the Vulture, but you get what I mean. So that's something they did figure out for the film. Liz and Vulture are not connected otherwise in other versions. Pointing it out though. So, and then like Peter beats Vulture and Liz moves away because of everything. And then as soon as she's out of the picture, they just do the, oh, my friends call me MJ. And at first I was like, huh? Huh? And but she got better. I like her MJ in Far From Home, and honestly, in just 5 minutes, she has more chemistry with Tom Holland than Toby and Kristen Dunst ever had.
Yeah. Yeah. I should point something out as well, by the way. Some of my reactions will be different because I didn't go, huh? Because I knew going into the film that she was MJ. Because
Okay.
I didn't watch Homecoming or Far From Home when they came out. I watched them. Actually, I never watched them until we did this show. So now I've watched
Yeah,
them
you
earlier
told
this
me.
week.
I'm ready.
Yeah. So I've watched them, but it was like earlier this week when I finally watched them. I had not watched them before. Not because not because I hate Spider-Man. I do, but because I just never got around to it. I'm personally, again, I'm not someone who's super into the MCU, and the MCU just it's so large at this point. It's a pain to keep up
It's
with it all.
like, as someone who can tell you who watched a lot of the MCU movies, like even I still need to catch up on What If and Hawkeye and see the Black Widow movie.
Those
I
three as
myself
well.
am starting to, yeah, I'm starting to lose it a bit myself, so don't worry about it. So anyway, so with that said, um, thoughts about Peter in the Avengers movies, like Infinity War and Endgame?
It's been so long for those two. Endgame was good. Like I'll admit, the dying scene with him and Stark, that was great. That was really well done.
Yeah,
And I mean,
and
it's
in
memed all
Infinity
over the
War,
internet. So
you're talking about Infinity War, I guess, because of the memes. With the Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good.
yes,
Mhm. Yeah, that was painful to see. Like, because I
I
remember
was
I was
I
actually
was
talking to a friend
personally I was
before this.
so happy we finally got rid of Spider-Man, and then they brought him back.
Yeah,
Ugh.
sure. That was one of those things I was joking with not joking. I was telling a friend like, well, we know Spider-Man is gonna survive Infinity War because we know there's this Homecoming sequel coming next year after the next Avengers. So we are just kind of like, okay, of course, Spider. And then suddenly they took a knife, stabbed me in my heart, and twisted it. Ugh. So, but I enjoyed him in Infinity War. I enjoyed
Yeah.
that he's again he's like with those big name. He's with Tony. He's with Doctor Strange. He meets the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he helps them fight them. And he's standing his ground. He's doing well in those fights. Like,
Yeah.
he's a valuable member. And then in Endgame, I like that. Honestly, what kind of drives Tony to help the other Avengers with the time travel plan is Peter. He wants to help Peter. He wants to save him. And
Hmm.
then when they reunite and they have this little hug, and it's like, okay, that's cool. That's cute.
And then Tony dies
Yeah.
because Peter has to have his Uncle Ben moment somewhere.
Actually, before that,
That's why Tony died. Tony didn't die for any other reason other than Spider-Man needed his Uncle Ben.
no, I won't say that. It's
Yeah, it
also.
was.
Uh, Listen, it probably played into it,
I
but
mean,
it's
yeah.
not. They didn't do it just for that.
So again, the thing I praised them for, they did it anyways.
Mhm. Okay, they used it. It's not. It doesn't mean it was done just to be that. But also in Endgame, one of my favorite surprises was I didn't expect them to reference the instant kill mode from Homecoming.
Oh yeah.
Like when he said that, I'm like, oh, okay. And now apparently Spider-Man has the biggest kill count in the MCU. You're welcome.
Eh.
So this leads us to Far From Home because we basically covered everything about Homecoming. So I think Far From Home is a much better sequel, if you ask me.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I enjoy it a lot
I,
more.
love I
I
like
think like.
I love Homecoming just fine, but it just Far From Home just really it hits some of the parts I wanted better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I agree. It also, you know, it's able to continue on from Endgame, and you have Peter just wanting to get away from it all to not be a superhero for a bit, and getting pulled back into it anyways. And it starts the idea of, you know, you're gonna have to choose eventually. You can't be both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. You have to pick one or the other, because that line continues on into No Way Home as well. That's not too much of a spoiler, really, considering
It's in the
how Far From
trailers,
Home
so
ends.
yeah.
Yeah. So it starts that, you know, arc of Peter / Spider-Man's journey, character-wise,
Uh,
which is neat. And plus, they roll in Tony's death into that as well, because again, that was his, you know, that was
mentor.
Peter's.
He
That was
got
his
him into
mentor, but
that
that was
world.
also
Yeah.
Peter's. As far as we're aware of, as of right now, that was kind of Peter's like door into being a superhero, being a hero, right? Like Iron Man and
Yeah.
Tony was his door into that when he, you know, went to him. So, you know, for Peter, like you can tell, it's a big thing to have that door, as in Tony, die
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
sacrifice himself, anyways, to, you know, allow the rest of them to live and everything. And now he has to go on with that, and plus he has to potentially, you know, like you have even everyone in the movie asking him, like, are you going to step into Mr. Stark's shoes, right? Are you going to fill those
Yeah.
shoes and
Like
everything?
when they're having that press conference in the beginning, one of them just asks them, "Are you the leader of the Avengers now? Are you the next Iron Man? Are you?" And it's like you can tell that this kid isn't up there yet. He even asks them, "Do you have any neighborhood questions?" Because he wants to keep, playing up with the little guy. He wants to
Yeah.
keep helping the little guy. That little space escapade was just a one-time thing, really. That he just kind of, and which he also kind of got into by mistake, all things considered.
I mean, to be
Because
fair to him, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man has a much better ring than Friendly World Spider-Man or Friendly Universe Spider-Man.
yeah, which is exactly why Stanley used that when he wrote the comics. So with that said, I really enjoyed Far From Home. Also, in terms of we don't in the comics it happened a few times, but we don't really got to see Spider-Man in other countries, So just having him around the world in different countries and trying to adjust to what it's like, to different environments and different restrictions and stuff. I really enjoyed that, and also like some of the swinging scenes are really damn good in that.
Mm.
Like I really, there's this thing they captured with the swing that he moves kind of like Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, but it's filmed like the Tobey Maguire films. They managed to hit that balance.
I didn't. I'll admit it wasn't something that caught my eye as much, but that's interesting. I'll have to look back through that at some point.
Mm-hmm. And so thoughts about Mysterio.
Uh, but that was Jake Gyllenhaal, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
I thought it was great. I thought he did really good. I thought Mysterio was great in this. I thought it felt very Mysterio. Like it was, I was very much, because this one I went into with pretty much no knowledge of it. Homecoming, I had more knowledge of it, kind of going into it. So it was interesting to see, like, oh, Mysterio's the hero in this one? That's probably not right. And then we kind of get there it is. There's the villain turn. And it's like, and then you get to see him being the villain who, has all these different tricks of, making people see what he wants them to see and stuff. Like, this feels like Mysterio. But it's cool because in the comics, like, Mysterio's powers aren't like science based. It's all, magic, right?
Yeah, he's basically Quentin Beck is an actor, so he's using like special effects and
Oh,
illusions,
it is that in the comics too.
Yeah, like
Okay.
it's not like in this. It's like it's a drone. You could say it's a drone projectors which create those
No,
things,
but I
but
mean,
but essentially it creates fake imagery to trick
yeah, yeah, but in the comics, is
Spider-Man.
it similar? Like, is it magic or something else, or is it like just
It's
trickery?
not. It's more
Okay,
trickery
so it's
because
trickery in the
he's
comics
using.
as well, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay, fair
he's
enough.
using props if I recall correctly.
I thought it
I
was
I actually have
different, but
like
if it's the same, it's still I like this rendition. I love how they
Yeah,
did
I
the
love it
trickery
because
stuff.
again, it connects to what the MCU can establish in terms of technology and stuff. That again, so like okay, you know what? Jumping ahead, the illusion scene, like in when
Mm,
after Peter gets to Germany and like Mysterio just fucks with that those sequences
it's
are
good.
like when they said Mysterio was gonna be the bad guy, I'm like, I want this, and they delivered
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. Like if you like Mysterio, you got exactly what you wanted. I'm sure because they're great. Those
Yeah.
scenes where it's the
Also
illusions and
that
just
also
him
like
messing
just
with
that
his mind so
frame,
much, it's great.
yeah, and just just the frame of like Mysterio holding his helmet, and you see Spider-Man inside as like a snow globe, like that's classic Spider-Man imagery.
Hmm.
Like again, nail. Just I was so happy in that sequence. It was so cool.
Yeah, they did. I feel like I liked Vulture in the first one, but I feel like Mysterio kind of takes the villain role way more in this. Like it's
Mhm.
just nailed so well.
The thing is, I want to ask you because you knew Mysterio was like in the Spider-Man mythos was a villain before this,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So you obviously saw the twist coming, and because I saw people kind of complain that the twist was too obvious, and it's like, of course it's obvious. It's like if you know you're going into this movie, you know that Mysterio is a Spider-Man villain. Like it's not, but the thing if let's say if you are not a Spider-Man fan, you didn't know Mysterio, because I have a
I,
friend who didn't.
okay.
Would you be able to figure it out? Because that friend, honestly, I think I accidentally spoiled it for her because I told her, well, Mysterio is the bad guy in the comic, and it's like, oh wait, he is. Oh, I'm suspicious now.
I mean, Mysterio's not like a C or D rank, D list villain, right? Like he's a
He's
fairly
well
well known
known.
villain in the
Yeah,
Spider Man lore. Like
yeah,
I
like
guess if you
he's
know nothing about Spider Man whatsoever, it would be you might not catch on to it as quickly. But I feel like because they definitely don't give you. I think the movie does depend on you knowing Mysterio to some degree and his origins within the comics, right? Because there's very little given to you before the reveal. Like the only thing you
mhm,
have is Peter, one of his webs hits this invisible thing and you see it fly off towards MJ who's hiding in the background and
yeah.
she like looks at it kind of odd and then it just cuts back to Spider-Man and Mysterio taking on the elemental, quote unquote. And it's
Mhm,
at that point, like that's the only thing you get before you have Quentin Beck and Peter, talking, and Peter's like, "Hey, you would be perfect as the next Tony Stark. Like, you're you're great. You have it all. You could be that. You
yeah.
could do that. Here, I'm giving you, control of the entire Stark satellite network system." And he does. And
Mhm.
at
It
that
does.
point,
Yeah.
then it's like the reveal of, yes, I'm evil. Ha ha ha. Ha.
Mhm. By the
It's better than
way,
that in the movie, but
what
you get
a
it.
random character to bring back, like the guy from Iron Man 1 that Jeff
Yeah.
Bridges yelled at. I remember seeing that. I'm like,
I
oh,
think
okay.
that was the biggest twist of Far From Home is like, okay, he's back. Cool.
And they even in the Blu-ray they bring us up like yeah, we managed to track him down, we brought it back. It's like he was great. I'm like, okay.
Didn't expect that, but
Sure.
I it works.
Also, I love when Mysterio creates like the final illusion in London, that like Beck asks this one guy for like a line, and he has this guy telling him, "It's all the elementals. They combine." It's like I was just laughing so hard that he has like a guy to give him script lines as
I
he's
also love how
performing.
Fury just turns around. Now that's some
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah, you
I
see
love
that.
Fury
You see
so
that. That's some
much.
bullshit. Yeah, that's great. And also
Samuel L.
that
Jackson, man.
entire London climax, great.
Mhm.
Because again, it shows that Peter is not only creative with his webs, but also that when he runs out of webs, he's also smart because he gets the idea of like, he has this thing that he throws at the drones to distract them, and then he uses, the sign of the bridge in order to use the pulse in order to get up to back and then punch it. That's a freaking badass moment. Like that was great. And also, the spider scenes, the spider sense or Peter thing or whatever you prefer, that he just closes his eyes and he manages to detect the drones and stuff.
Yeah, that was a great
Just
scene too. And like
great.
and you see like the illusion, kind of breaking here and there to see the drones being destroyed and everything while the illusion's still going on. Like great, very well done scene. Loved that scene.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like this had some
And also
great
when,
fight scene stuff and like creative fight scene stuff in it as well, considering
mhm.
Mysterio. Like they
And I
did it
also
really
love that,
well.
there's he's talking to like the Mysterio illusion, and then without even turning his head, there's just this gunshot, and you just see Spidey like raise his hand to catch him, the real hand with the gun, and it's like, holy shit!
Yeah.
Like when I first saw it, I was like, oh, didn't see that coming, but
Yeah,
it
that was
was,
really good too. That one caught me as well.
yeah.
But again, it just,
And
spider sense, man. It's great. Like that's a great way of showing it.
yeah. Hmm. And then we get the mid-credit scene, which at first caught me by complete surprise. And not just because J.K. Simmons returns, and J.K. Simmons is moi, J.K. Simmons as Jameson.
Yeah.
Wonderful,
Can't beat it.
wonderful stuff.
It's great
Hmm.
too because like he's not been in any of it or even mentioned it all until that moment.
Yeah,
And I love how it's
yeah,
just I believe they show it in this film where it's just him on like he's basically just a web host. Like that's it. Like
yeah.
he's running his own
Mhm.
podcast now. Like it's gone that far downhill for him.
I think it's actually a small bit they took from the Spider-Man PS4 game because he's a podcaster there.
Yeah. Well,
I
it's also
think
a
that's
reference
what they
to
referenced.
what's his name? The really the
Bill
asshole in the
O'Reilly?
no, not Bill O'Reilly. Oh, I guess he could be one. He definitely is one, but it's also a reference to like others as well. They're all assholes essentially. Not us. We're great podcasters. We're
Yeah,
we don't
sure.
we're at least better than Bill O'Reilly. We don't shit on random people for no reason, and we don't we're not assholes towards we're not homophobes, we're not transphobes and things like that. You can come here because we're LGBTQ friendly. We don't mention that enough.
Yeah.
You're welcome here. This is a safe space here.
Mhm. Well, we
And
cannot
so many
praise
other
the
things, like
She-Ra.
we're also not
We
racist.
praise the shows like She-Ra and The Owl House for those teams. So yeah.
We're also not terribly racist, unlike those people. So we're better in that regard.
Anyway, so we end with. What the hell do you want me to say to that?
I don't know. Let's go, Bill O'Reilly. Start beef.
No.
I don't
But
want
I
that
can
beef,
tell
but
you, I can tell you what did start beef though, because we end that on a cliffhanger with, Peter's identity being revealed.
yeah, that's a new one. Which I was like, hey, this is cool. I can't wait for No Way Home now. That's an interesting way to start that film because
And
that's
but
like not something
before
we
this,
often get
before we get to
or
No
haven't
Way
got yet.
Home, and before we start talking about it, we kind of just have to talk about the thing, which is after Far From Home was released, Disney, Marvel, and Sony's deal regarding Spider-Man was looking like it was gonna be done because that deal was, the deal was supposedly over, and there was going to be no more. And Sony were gonna take Spider-Man back, and the next film, despite having Tom Holland in it, would have no connection to the MCU. That was the initial announcement, and a lot of people were mad about it, myself included, because I felt if you knew this was coming, why end on such a note? Why end on a cliffhanger?
I mean, the truth of the matter is because they wanted to put Sony in a bad spot, and they did. They absolutely did, because Sony caved eventually, and they came back to the table. But I mean, there's been a lot of stuff going on between Sony and Disney.
Like, you say that, but honestly, at some point, like after a few months of hearing about this, it just seemed like there was gonna be a dead deal, and there would be nothing would come out of it until eventually, of course, negotiations were renewed, and now we have No Way Home.
The thing is, though, like, everyone's given Sony shit for all of this, but honestly, like, and everyone's like, hey, praise Disney for making all this work. They did so great, but Disney's kind of assholes in this whole deal too. Like, probably more than Sony.
I'll be, just to give.
I mean, the biggest asshole though is copyright and trademark. Fuck copyright and trademark.
Yeah, like I will say this. Considering this debate is somewhat behind us, somewhat, we'll get into it after we talk about No Way Home. But considering we are kind of, still in it, I would say that both sides were guilty to some extent.
Yeah, I mean,
Disney, like Disney had their own, I blame Disney for stuff, I blame Sony for stuff. The people who say that Sony should be grateful for what Disney and Marvel did.
Oh, no. Fuck that.
I would say I get what they mean, but it's also, you need to understand that Sony made Into the Spider-Verse without Disney's help.
True. A good point. I mean, again, like, there's been good Spider-Man films without Disney. There's been bad Spider-Man films without Disney. And then there's been at least an amazing Spider-Man film without Disney. But there's been some great Spider-Man films with Disney and Marvel too. The thing is, it's like, I mean, again, like, Sony, Disney, at the end of the day, they're companies trying to make money. That's all it is to it. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, really, the thing here you should be mad at, I mean, be mad at Disney. They deserve it. Sony, up and down, depends on who you're talking to, what you're talking about. But Disney for just being assholes sometimes. But be mad at copyright law. I mean, technically, that's also Disney's fault. But anyways, be mad at copyright law for being just an absolute bitch in the U.S.
The thing is that you say be mad at copyright law, then I could also say be mad at Sony for not just caving in the Spider-Man rights, because again, they did make Spider-Verse and stuff, but it's also that since Amazing Spider-Man, that's one compared to two.
They're not going to give that up because, one, copyright law, but two,
of course,
it makes money.
Mm-hmm. So it's one of those. There's no clear answer on this, but what did happen is that the deal was renewed for one more solo film and one more team-up film. We'll get to this later, because now, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen No Way Home, then go watch it, because it's freaking amazing. But we're gonna talk spoilers from this point on. So
I don't have a spoiler alert, but you get it. Spoilers.
Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. If you didn't close the video yet and you haven't seen the movie, everything you're hearing from this point on, we warned you. This is on you. So, No Way Home, if you ask me, is the best live-action Spider-Man movie, bar none. Maybe even on the same level as Spider-Verse.
I've not seen Spider-Verse. We'll get there. But, I really enjoyed the film.
you say you really enjoyed it. Do you have a certain place regarding all of the other ones, or is
I don't know if it's my favorite.
well,
I feel
fair?
no,
I'm not saying.
there's a lot of really cool ideas here, but then I don't know. It's just it doesn't stick with me personally as much. I I don't
Well,
know. I feel
it
like
definitely
I mean
is,
this film definitely
but
trades on nostalgia a lot, considering, but also they went and did it again, man. The fucking bin thing with May this time.
and
Why? You didn't need
I,
to. I get it. It
something.
works. It's great. You did it well. But why? I
You
don't feel
know,
like you needed to.
you say again, but I like that they did it with May because to me at least, it felt like the one bit which was missing. Because, obviously, hear me out. Hear me out on this. We had, because again, we kind of had this, okay, Tony got Peter, into the world of the Avengers. He's like giving him he made him more popular as a superhero and stuff, and he kind of funded him and everything. So that's great. But I think there was still something which Peter did have on his
I
own,
have a counter.
granted, but I also feel like this movie really touches about the fact that Peter Parker is a person who
Mm-hmm.
would do who would put others before him, who
Yeah,
would actually
fair.
fight for others before him. Because, and they also talk about it that when May tells them, "Do you want to set down these villains home and have them face their fates as is, because it's the right thing to do for them, or is it the right thing to do for yourself?"
Which
And
which is
granted,
fair.
it's
It's a
something that,
great moment. It's a
yeah,
really great moment because it
and even
shows that
though,
Peter is that good guy, even for the villains he's supposedly facing. He wants to try and help them, not just
and
get rid
that's
of them and deal with them,
yeah,
which
and
is
then
great.
when he actually, yeah, and I like that it's also the villain which convinces him that, which is the Green Goblin. By the way, William Defoe, so glad to see him back.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, didn't skip a beat.
Mm-hmm.
But so,
Agreed.
and he's the villain that eventually turns that like firstly
Now,
turns on Peter. And he's the one who kills Aunt May. And
counterpoint.
uh, hold on,
Counterpoint for you. Okay, go ahead.
yeah,
I'll let you
hold on. I
finish.
just want to finish it. And at this point, Peter is pissed at him. So much so that when he fights him later on in the movie, he's going brutal on him. He's punching him, and he wants that guy dead. But I like it that he feels like he did it. He tried to help those villains out because it was the hero thing to do. It was the Spider-Man thing to do. And May tells him, you know, just because you are a good person inside of you, and just because you're mad that asshole turned on you, doesn't change the fact that you understand what it means to be a hero. She even tells them that with great power comes great responsibility, and that's something that's also a fair, that it's kind of reassured to him by the other Spideys. We'll get to them in a bit. So I thought it was the final piece of the puzzle, which was kind of missing. Now
Counterpoint.
counterpoint me.
Counterpoint. My counterpoint is I feel like it would have been so much more amazing if at the end of the film, when Peter has to give up, when Peter says, hey, make everyone forget that I'm Spider-Man, and he has to give up Aunt May. Not through death, but through the fact that she's going to forget him completely. The woman who raised him, the woman who took care of him, the woman who took him in, and the woman he's been with for these past films, who's always been in his corner. She has to forget him, and Peter has to give that up. Not just Mary Jane, but her too. I feel like that would have been much more poignant, much more interesting, especially going into a potential second film where you have her there. as well, and she's still there, and Peter still has to give her up to. Like, it's
You
great for
see,
MJ and Ned. It's like it works for that as well, but I don't know. I feel like it would have been more interesting if that's what they did with her. Now, granted, that does ruin the whole, Peter wanting revenge on Green Goblin and trying and having to fight between that being a good person in spite of, the terrible things other people do. It does hurt that narrative or make that narrative more wonky, and you have to find a way to fill in that gap. Who do you kill in that regard, or what do you do in that regard? That's more difficult. Sure, I get that. What I'm saying isn't it, would require a lot more reworking and retooling of the movie. But I feel like they didn't have to kill Aunt May. I feel like there was something, in my opinion, that was much more interesting as a potential storyline and character development line there, and that is him having to
I
give up Aunt
get
May.
you. I get you on that, but I also feel like, considering how the film ends, which is because what I cannot talk about this after the movie, but the movie ends with, like, the final shot you see is Peter making himself a new suit, which is like, in terms of all the live action Spidey costumes we have in those movies, this is the one which is the most comic book accurate, like to
Mm-hmm.
the very original Steve Ditko design.
Yeah.
And I feel like what they did is they kind of played the long game with the origin. And because you don't necessarily see Ben, because you don't necessarily heard heard that phrase before, I think it was actually interesting that she's the Uncle Ben in this universe. She
Which is
was
fair.
like she was always there. You don't have to like it. I just think that's how I saw it, and that's how I
No,
personally
that's
feel.
that's completely fair. Like, that's a completely valid take that this is an extended origin, story. I don't completely agree, but I do get where you're coming from. I understand why you think that, and I don't disagree with you. It absolutely could stand as that. But again, I
You
just
just
feel
think
like,
that another option would be preferable,
yeah,
which is
I
fine.
would prefer the option I put forward, or just something different, because that's what I was kind of wanting from this. And when I saw Homecoming and I saw that Ben's already gone, we're not doing that again, or we have Aunt May there. Like, that's the idea. It's just Aunt May. Like, I saw the changes there, or to some degree, what I thought were changes or new things that actually weren't. They're just a part of the Spider-Man lore. So really, that's probably on me for that matter. But to me, it felt like, okay, there's all these new and interesting things going on that aren't quite Spider-Man, but are MCU, and it's kind of the MCU setting itself apart just a bit. I like this. I want to see what new things they do with this. But then we
Mhm.
kind of still end up doing a lot of the same things. And it's just like, it's different, but it's not new. It's retreading old ground, but slightly differently. And it's like, I don't know. It's for me personally, it's not kind of what I was wanting, having seen all of the other Spider-Man films leading up to this. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe those things are too much on my mind right now because I've only recently watched them again, or recently
It's
watched them, and now I have
mhm.
Marvel doing the same thing, and it's like, I've seen this before, very recently, in fact.
Okay, then that's probably fair. But so
Again,
moving on
don't
from
get me
this,
wrong. It's not bad. It is
yeah,
excellently well done. Like, having the three films to
yeah,
build up Aunt May and have her there as a character and show off her more is way better done than the previous Uncle Ben deaths. And don't get me wrong, Raimi and The Amazing Spider-Man, they did it fine, but they had one movie to do it in. This film
mhm,
had way more time to do it in, and it does come across better than those. I feel like it is.
yeah.
If you asked me which quote unquote Uncle Ben death was the best, it was this one. It was hands down this one.
Fair, yeah, I'm with you on this.
don't
Also,
I
I
don't
kind
think
of
there's many
like
people
because
that would
it's Norman
disagree.
Osborn. Yeah, and also I kind of find, because considering this is Norman Osborn as the Green Goblin who does it, I guess it's also kind of a different take on the Gwen Stacy death, in a sense, on the night Gwen Stacy died.
Agreed.
because Goblin even tells them like it was your fault. It wasn't me. You did this. Like so. Interesting take on it. So moving on, I guess, to the villains. So like I said, William Defoe was the Goblin. Perfect. Still love him. Never skipped a beat. And I say same goes for Alfred Molina as Doc Ock.
Yep, did great. Our boy's
And
back.
I also like how I like how he's showing up as the film's bad guy Peter faces, but also he kind of slowly starts realizing, you know what, I did get to like my Peter. I think maybe and this Peter did help me.
They
Maybe
really show how the tentacles have warped his mind more in this one. In the Sam Raimi film, like it never felt like they kind of did it, but you
it
never
was like,
got
oh no,
the.
it's broken now. Guess I'm evil.
Yeah, like it felt very much like a quick flip. In this one, you could see like, oh, he refers to himself and the tentacles as we and everything, and you have other stuff going on. Like you can see
That's
the
actually a small
changes,
bit
you
I
can see the
like
flips.
when he sees Peter like Iron Man, Spider, and he has the tentacles. Looks like we got some competition. I like it. It
Yeah,
was a good moment.
yeah, and then again, like you have his outbursts, like we don't think so, or we, again, like it's
And
it's
when they
subtle,
give
but it's a
him,
nice addition because it shows more of the he is messed up from that.
yeah, and I also found it interesting when Peter actually kills him. When he fixes the thing, he's actually like, it's silent now. I
Yeah.
don't hear voices anymore. What a great thing. What a great way to work. And speaking of that, because obviously when they introduced Sada in Spider-Man 2, Norman is already dead because of the first movie. So it was interesting to see that both Norman and Octavius actually knowing each other, and like they talked with each other, they are aware of each other because obviously through Oscorp maybe and stuff, and that he tells them you died, and he's like, what are you talking about? And then Sandman is there too, and he tells Ock, you died, because they don't know him. He's just a random guy, but he knows them because they are famous in that world. It was such an interesting way to communicate these two. It was great.
Yeah.
I was really invested in these three just talking. It was so good.
Oh, and they did the same with Kurt
Electro
Connors and
and
Electro, yeah, Max D and Dylan, because like they knew each other and they were familiar with one another and had heard of one another, and they're like,
because both of them worked at Oscorp, and when they see Norman, it's like, you are Norman Osborn. You look nothing like our Norman. So again, speaking of which, Electro, just Jamie Foxx was given so much more good material in this movie.
Yeah.
Like I was so happy for him that he got to actually be funny and be legit evil and have good chemistry with the other villains and actors. He was so good in
I mean, Jamie
this.
Foxx is a good actor. Like when he's given a chance,
Yeah,
he can do good
definitely.
work, and he was given a chance in this one, and he did great work. Like he was just spot on it, in my opinion. Like he did great.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
So yeah, like it's nice that he got that second chance to really shine.
Yeah.
And again, like Flint Marko was probably, in my opinion, the weakest link here.
Yeah,
And that's not
I
because
was
he's a
about to
bad
say,
actor. That's
because
just because I don't feel Sandman got a lot of chance to really do much or say
not
much.
only that, I kind of like that, when he shows up, he's like, yeah, because he tells Spidey, yo, Peter, it's me. And it's like, and he actually helps them take down Electro. But then he just kind of switches
Well, like
for,
again, he sees Peter does something to Electro, and he's like, "What'd you do? No, I don't trust you. I don't know you. You're not my Peter." It makes
yeah.
sense, but it's a very quick
Well,
flip, and
yeah.
then from there, it's just like, "Oh, I'm bad now." Like I only want this
I
thing so
kind
I
of
can go
like,
home. I don't care about trying to heal myself or cure anyone else.
I kind of like the lizard being in there. I also love how they just kept him in the truck because they didn't want to walk a giant lizard into the building.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I get like,
And
I would say, unfortunately, like Sandman and Kurt Connors, I feel were kind of the two weakest
yeah,
links here. I
they
feel
got the short end of the stick on it,
Sandman
but
got
they're not.
the shortest though. Like Kurt Connors had a few moments of like, wait, the dinosaur can talk? That was good with Ned. That was more Ned's
Yeah,
moment, but it was still like he was a
it,
part of some good moments.
definitely. And I guess another thing is so Doctor Strange in that movie. Um, I liked his role there. I like that, he is the right other Avengers that we could use that fits this plot.
Hmm.
And also, I will say, I really enjoyed this fight scene with Spider-Man.
Yeah, seeing like Spider-Man being in the mirrored world and just all everything going on with that again. I love that. It was
And
great. They did really
and
well with that.
also, I love how he chops in there and tells them, hey, Steven, you know what's cooler than magic? Math. And because one, totally a Spider-Man joke, and two, Peter Parker is
No,
smart, so of course
that's
he'll
not a
use
Spider-Man
math.
joke. That's a Peter Parker joke.
Well, what's the difference at this point, really?
There is a bit of a difference. Spider-Man would never say math is cool because Spider-Man
No,
gets
he
it.
will.
No,
No, he will. He will. I know he said it in the comics once, but I'll need to actually find it and take a picture of it. So,
Spider-Man's ruined. Well, I mean, that's nothing new. Spider-Man is the worst hero, so it makes sense that he would say something uncool like that.
sure. So going back to this, when you saw the movie,
Mhm.
what was the reaction from the audience?
When what?
Just in general, at the start, because like for me, people were already clapping and cheering when Octavius showed up,
Yeah.
when Goblin showed up, when all the
When
villains
all
showed
right,
up. Everyone,
when I was in the theater, yeah, you heard some people like cheering and clapping when Octavia showed up, absolutely. But I feel the biggest one, like, and I wasn't in a huge theater now, and there wasn't a ton of like it wasn't packed. It was about half full, and it was again not a huge theater, just a local theater for me. Hi, I live in the country, so. But yeah,
yeah.
it's I think the biggest thing, and I don't know if this was revealed beforehand, but I think the biggest like
If you're talking about
whoa.
Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, then
I think Tobey
I'll
Maguire
put
was like revealed beforehand, but I don't think Garfield
no,
was.
no,
Was
no,
he?
no, no. The thing is that both of them, it was like there were rumors. Some people said yes, some people said no. Andrew Garfield even constantly said no, and everyone was, but there was still some rumors. There were leaks. There was so much talk about it that honestly, I was kind of sick of the movie before even watching it because everyone was talking about this. But at the same time, I was like, I just went in. It's like, if they're there, great. If they're not there, I'll live. Because even if they're there, I'm saying I come in to see how Tom Holland's Spider-Man story is gonna end, and not necessarily to see other Spider-Man in there.
Hmm.
But with that said,
Yeah,
when
the
these two showed up, you can't
especially in
deny
my
it.
opinion, like I feel like the cheer was way bigger for Andrew Garfield because I think people were genuinely shocked about that. Tobey Maguire didn't feel like people were as shocked by it. Like it felt like, yeah, we kind of expected that, but it's still cool. We're clapping, we're cheering for that. But Andrew Garfield was like the entire theater was like, yeah, whoa,
Tell you what,
like they got
because
excited for that man.
yeah, because I'll tell you what, because I think because Andrew shows up first,
Yeah,
and so if you brought him, obviously you're gonna get Toby
true,
as
true.
well.
But yeah, like they were
So, but
big for
like in
Garfield.
my theater personally, and I was one of those people. I joined in on the cheering because holy shit.
But
But
I remember
but like
like there was one person in the theater, like I heard him say like, where's Toby? Bring us Toby. Come on, Toby. Is that Toby? Yeah. Like that dude was so excited. Like he was
yeah.
living it.
Um, so for me, I also like that people I think already started noticing it was Andrew when they just saw him in, far away into the alley. Like that he was just, because you can tell the eyes were bigger and stuff. And then when he jumped in and you saw, it's like everyone was like, oh. And when he took off the mask, everyone was just livid. It
Yeah.
was amazing.
And like everyone loved the moment between him and MJ and Ned. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
prove your
It's
Peter
like,
Parker, prove
okay,
your Spider-Man. He's like, all right, fine, hanging
yeah,
from the
it's
wall.
like,
It's like, nah, crawl around. Like, come on, seriously, really, come on, let's.
yeah.
I think this proves it. No, I don't. I'm hanging from the wall.
Yeah,
ceiling
and
even.
then also I like how when Toby walked in, it was like this perfect because you can tell it's him, but you could also tell that he kind of aged, but it's fitting that he aged. You
Well, they
know,
even play it
it
off like they're
worked.
older too. Like their universes have
Hmm.
progressed. Like these are older Spider-Man.
Yeah.
They've been through it. They've lived through it. So that's
Hmm.
actually a cool. Like they actually play the age up into it as well, which
Yeah.
is a nice little
Also,
thing.
I can't wait when this movie comes out on digital and stuff. I can't wait for people to edit Bolly McGuire into Toby's entrance. Like, people are gonna do it.
Yeah. Oh boy,
Mm.
the
Like,
memes.
Ned opens the portal and then you just see him do the dance and it's like, yeah.
Oh my god, I would love it. If the internet doesn't do it, I will be disappointed. So
Someone is gonna
disappointed.
do it.
They have
Someone is
to.
gonna do
You
it.
have to, internet. You have to.
Like,
From us here at the
somebody
Outcast,
edit
you
them
have
like
to do this.
like honestly, Wolf, somebody did an edit of like him teleporting via lightning and then doing the dance. So like it's gonna happen.
They
It's gonna
have
fucking
to.
happen.
They have to.
Mhm.
I will be
Uh,
disappointed in you, internet, if you don't. And you don't want to disappoint me. That would be sad.
mhm. Uh, and so after this, I liked both, Toby and Andrew kind of comforting Tom up
Yeah.
and tell him like, we lost people. It's kind of like, again, they tell him we were in the exact same position you were because we are you. We know what you're going through, and yeah, it sucks. It's hard, but we're Spider-Man. We keep fighting because that's what we do.
Hmm.
That's our core. And then there's the scene in the lab, which is also fantastic. Like you mentioned before, when Ned says, "I promise I'll never turn into your arch nemesis." I think that's a reference to Hobgoblin, most likely.
Yeah. I did not know that was a
And
reference at all. I thought this is a funny
I
joke, but
did,
then oh no, there's
I
like
did,
way more deeper meaning to this joke apparently.
yeah,
Whoa.
I knew it, and it was great.
But then later on, we do
And
see that Ned might be able to cast magic and stuff. So it's like, oh, starting down
yeah.
that road,
Eh,
Ned.
Yeah, like because the reason we have Toby and Andrew there is because of Ned. He opened the portals because the thing he has from Doctor Strange. So that's cool.
I
And
also love how
of
Doctor
course,
Strange acknowledges that too. It's like, so you opened a portal, huh? Like, yeah, I think I did. Mr. Doctor Strange, sir. He's like, huh, and then just walks away.
and then he's also like, I've been there for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Um, on so this kind of connects because in the lab scene we also get like Toby asking them, "Oh, what's this for?" And they're like, "The web shooters," and then he
Oh
shows them
God,
that they
yeah.
can, and they have this talk on the Statue of Liberty where they're like, so they just compare each other, Andrew and Toby doing like those yoga crackings and stuff to stretch their muscles, and them asking them about how the biological web works and comparing villains. It was so good. The three of them had such great chemistry. It
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah, they
I
did
love
great. They
it.
were given a lot here to work with, and it shows. Like, and they
And I
even
also
played
love
off the
that.
new characters too. Like all the old
Yeah.
characters played off of Doctor Strange really well. Like seeing Doctor Strange do magic and Octavius is there. It's like magic. What
Yeah, yeah,
party
yeah, that
tricks?
was
What is
great
this?
too.
And Doctor Strange walks off. I've done a lot of party tricks to get this good. Like it's great.
Mhm. And also, so on that thing too, I also like that they kind of play up the Amazing Spider-Man movies weren't the most well received. So there's Andrew kind of talking down to himself. It's like, wow, you fought aliens, you guys are cool. The best I got is like a Russian guy in a rhino suit. I'm not compared to you guys. And Toby actually doesn't. No, 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 you're not great. You're amazing.
I love
And it's
that
like.
interaction. Like I
Yeah,
was
because I like it
it's
too
so
because
sweet,
he's
but
still
also it's just a
fun.
dumb like joke too, but it's also kind of sweet. Like, no, I want to hear you
Mhm.
say it. You're amazing. Like, thank you. I
Yeah.
really needed that. Thank you. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, like that's
Because
sweet.
also those three actors are also legit fans of each other's works in these franchises. So it's like I can't believe this movie is real. I can't believe I experienced
I
it.
mean,
It was so
again,
good.
like it may not be my personal favorite, but everything they do in here, it works. It's really good.
And also when they actually fight the villains and they're not really coordinated and stuff. And there's this amazing point of like Andrew says, we suck, we never fought in a team before, and it's like Toby, no, neither did I. And Tom tells them, I don't want to brag, I was in the Avengers, that's great, what is it? And Andrew just goes, is that a band? Are you in a band?
That's so awesome. Yeah, they just start praising him for being in a band, and it's like, they're not a band.
Yeah.
Then he starts telling him what the Avengers are. It's like, do we have time for this right now?
And then he assigns them to, I'm Peter 1, you're Peter 2, you're Peter 3. Andrew tells them he loves them. So sweet. I love Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. And then I also, and another big reaction when the three of them are like swinging together and do like the superhero landings. Holy shit. What a time to be alive and to be a Spider-Man fan. Just, so good. And again, I also like with the villains that they kill them, and each one has a nice little moment with like Flint and Toby have their little sweet moment. Even again, if you remember, go listen to that episode from last week. I was kind of iffy in Amazing Spider-Man 2 where Spidey planned to kind of to overload Electro and kill him, but then here they actually let them this small talk where they're reconciling, and it's like, that's so sweet, that's so awesome. Like, it literally fixed that problem for me. It was like the perfect conclusion to these two Spider-Man as well.
You even had a reference to Amazing Spider-Man as well, with MJ falling like Gwen, and Andrew getting to save him.
Yeah, that was great too. That he manages to save her, and he's legit crying because he knows, because he knows, again, in true Spider-Man fashion, he gave someone else the thing he lost. It was so good.
Okay, there's also a lot of subtlety going on here that works really well.
Yeah, and also Toby and Doc Ock are just happy to see each other because they did end with each other on a good note in Spider-Man 2. So, just talking to each other and being like, yeah, good to see you again. Good, it's great to see you. It's again, so wholesome, so fucking wholesome.
And then they kill Tobey Maguire.
Everyone was everyone in the
theater
legit, was like,
the theater got silent. Like, whoa! Like, you heard like one person like, I did not expect that. Like, kind of whispered, but loud whispered, right? And then, but the rest of the theater was just silence, and everyone's like, holy shit, they did that. Is he dead? Are they gonna kill Tobey Maguire in this film? That's weird, but also wow. And it's like, oh no, he's alive.
Obviously, that's actually. You see Andrew helping him, and now it's like, this is painful for you, isn't it? It's like, I am dying of pain. Like, it's so painful. But again, they kind of teleport back to their universes, and in a friendly way. I like it. You saw also the three of them hugging. It's so wonderful. Yeah. It's so wonderful. Like, the words to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, it's again like it's a nice feel-good film. Like, honestly. If they if they don't have another Spider-Man film after this one, I think this would be a great way to end Spider-Man, at least within the Marvel universe.
In a bit, we'll talk about this.
Yeah, I know it will, because I know there's an Untitled Spider-Man No Way Home Part 2.
Just wait. So then the movie kind of ends with, honestly, the way I saw it, doing the Troll Hunters Rise of the Titans ending, but good. And legit emotional, which is because
so that's why Ned's Spider-Man. Now I get it.
Oh no, this is not what I was talking about. So because the universes got so fucked up, there's no choice. If Doctor Strange erases the memory of Peter Parker being Spider-Man, he's just gonna delete people's memories of Peter Parker in general. And I'm still not entirely sure how it works, but
the idea was the way I understood it is the universe is breaking apart because everyone who knows Peter Parker is trying to come to that universe, because like that's how the spell got distorted and messed up, right? So everyone who knows
Yeah.
Spider-Man or knows Peter Parker is trying to come into the universe, and it's all kind of breaking down, and the multiverse is colliding and connecting, blah blah blah, yada yada yada, multiverse shenanigans. We don't have to explain shit. It's
Yeah.
the multiverse. So
Hmm.
that's happening, and then you have the whole thing of, all right, then what if we just say you do the spell, but everyone forgets who Peter Parker is? Like everyone in the world
Yeah.
no longer remembers Peter Parker. Peter Parker just
Hmm.
disappears. Will that fix things? And Strange's like, yeah, but you realize that no one will remember you. Everyone
Yeah.
forgets you, including, me. Like, no one's going to remember you. And he even has a thing of like, you know, like even Doctor Strange kind of tells him like, hey, we don't want to forget you. Like he includes himself in that. Like Doctor Strange does actually like
Yeah.
Peter, and like
Hmm.
we don't want to
Despite
forget
all
you.
the
We care
problems, it's
about you.
like you said at the start, they saved half the universe together. So like he does care. He
Yeah,
does want the best for that kid.
but
And,
Peter tells him like,
and
do it because it'll save the
mhm.
universe, and that's more important. And it's like,
Yeah, and
I
I
can,
also
make people try and remember me eventually.
and that's actually that he does this with the knowledge that he's gonna, because he's preparing the speech to give to MJ and Ned, and they'll remember. But then when he sees MJ's injury, he just realizes maybe it's better for them if they don't know me. Maybe they'll be safe, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll be able to save them. And
Well,
it's
it goes back
such
to that thing in the second movie of finally choosing, who are you going to be, Peter Parker or Spider-Man? Well, Peter
Mhm.
Parker's gone now, technically, so he is Spider-Man.
Yeah, and that scene, and also again that ending scene where he's like in like the most accurate comic book costume, and listening to police, to police
Scanners,
reports,
yeah.
and just goes out saving the world, and that's where it ends, like with a fully realized Spider-Man. And okay, mid-credit scene. We want to talk about it,
Which one is this one?
not the Doctor Strange trailer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've already shown that trailer plenty of times outside of the film, right? Or is that a new trailer?
No, no, first time
Oh,
we saw
okay.
anything.
I
This
wasn't
is the
sure.
first thing we ever saw of the next Doctor Strange film, which
Gotcha.
again directed by Sam Raimi. So,
Eh? But the mid-credit
um,
scene was them over Aunt May's grave?
no, no, no. It was with Venom.
Oh, yeah, that. Right. I've not seen the Venom film, so that kind of had zero effect for
I'll
me, I'll
okay.
admit.
I'll tell you this as
Like, it
someone
took me a minute.
who
It's like,
watched.
who is that? What is that? Oh, yeah, that's Venom. That's right. And then they did the thing.
Yeah.
I get it now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good. Yeah,
So the
yeah.
thing is that, for the record, not to give anything away from Venom, Let There Be Carnage, but the mid-credit scene of that movie is basically Venom and Eddie Brock and Venom being teleported to the MCU because of the Doctor Strange stuff, and then they see Peter as Spider-Man on TV, and Venom goes, "That guy," and it's like, okay, we're building up Tom, the two Toms going at it at some point. And then we get this thing where it's Eddie Brock trying to learn this universe and everything, and then they're just sent back.
Yep.
And like there's this thing that's like, there's this bit of a symbiote that's left behind. Maybe they are building up something with that, but also only 2 months ago you promised us that these two are gonna meet, and it's like now all of a sudden you're going back on it. Like, what the hell?
They did meet. One saw each other, Venom saw Spider-Man on TV. They met.
Sure, that's how it was. Anyway, and so that said, what's for the future?
I
I
mean,
have no fucking
well,
clue.
we have Venom in the world. We have a piece of the symbiote in the world now, so it's gonna find Peter. So now we get bully Tom Holland. We
You
get
see
dark
though,
Tom Holland now, like Tobey
wait,
Maguire in the past. He
before you
does the
say
dance.
this, sure, you know something. Yeah, you know what? I take knowing that this is gonna happen than the mess that there is right now, because currently, at the time of this recording, there's no official announcement regarding what the hell is going on with Spider-Man.
Well,
Because
what I'm seeing is there's been like Amy Pascal confirmed that there's a development of a sequel
yeah,
to
you
No Way
see,
Home.
she confirms that there's a new trilogy with Tom Holland, happening. But at the same time, then other Sony people and even Kevin Feige said that nothing is set in stone as of now. They're just talking. And then there's also Tom Holland saying that he doesn't really want to play Spider-Man for long. Like he says that if I'm still playing Spider-Man at the age of 30, and he's currently 25, I think. So he said if I'm still playing this character by the age of 30, that means I'm doing something. And he really pushes for a Miles Morales taking over in the MCU at some point.
Interesting. I think that'd be great. I would love to see
Yeah,
that.
same,
I
but
mean,
then also,
only
but
thing I'm
not
seeing
only
right.
that,
Oh no, it says second. Okay, cool. Second trilogy, huh?
and but then not only did he say that, which means by the time he's 30, so like you could argue that still gives him some time to be in the role to just give it a proper conclusion. But then he just says there are rumors that he might just quit acting altogether, and which is odd,
Hey,
but
Tom Holland's
his
weird.
choice. Yeah. Honestly, I think I also kind of get it because honestly, the poor kid is probably learning what Hollywood is like, because he just
Yeah,
said that having to lie about No Way Home to people in interviews and stuff, he didn't like that at all. He really didn't like that.
yeah. What? I mean,
And
fair, fair. Like
but then
Tom
there's
Holland's
also the
too
thing
nice.
that
That's his problem. He's too nice of a person.
maybe
It seems like maybe he's a horrible
uh,
person, but he seems like he's way too
no,
genuine and way too
yeah,
nice.
he's a puppy. He's a puppy dog, and we need to protect him.
I
And
mean, he feels
so
that way. Maybe it's all an act, and he's like a horrible human being. Like once you get to know him, but
But
I'm going to
then,
assume
but
he's a
then also
genuinely too
you
nice person.
let me finish.
No, I'm not Tom Holland. I'm not genuinely nice. Fuck you.
Well, fuck you too.
Go ahead.
I'm not as nice as Tom Holland as well, you see.
Mm,
But anyway, but then there's also the thing that the
rude.
deal with Sony and Marvel was that they get Spider-Man for one more solo movie, which was No Way Home, and another assembly film like the Avengers,
Mm-hmm.
which people assume is gonna appear in the new Fantastic Four movie, since John Watts, who directed this trilogy, is directing that. But again, nothing is confirmed. But then, despite Tom Holland
Rumors,
saying that he
rumors,
doesn't want
rumors.
to be in to stay as the characters for long and even quit acting, now apparently he also pitched some ideas for a Spider-Man 4, and Kevin Feige also says that they are talking about where to go from No Way Home. So what the hell is actually going on? I have no clue.
I
And
think it's
considering there's no,
I think it's guaranteed we're at least getting one more film, and it's going to be a quote unquote sequel to No Way Home. Like I think that's at the very least guaranteed. From that point on,
yeah,
who knows? But I think we're at least going to
I
get one more film in the MCU.
again, I think we'll get one more film in the MCU, not necessarily Spider-Man, but like they said,
Oh, we're
one
definitely going to get
more
one more film in the
assembly.
MCU.
Yeah,
We're
like
going to
with
get a lot
Spider-Man.
more, one more films.
And but I feel they wouldn't just tease, Spider-Man versus Venom for nothing. They're gonna do that. Would it be in the MCU? Fuck if I know, but they're gonna do that.
You know what?
Would it mean that Tom Holland is gonna be in the next Venom movie? I have no
Prediction.
clue, but
Let's do
yeah.
some predictions, or kind of a what would you want? Like, what would you want to have happen in the within the MCU in regards to Spider-Man moving forward?
I'll tell you what.
Or like what would be
If
your
they
prediction?
really, in terms of what I want, kinda is if I were to write like the next like a fourth Spider-Man movie, or maybe like the last in this new trilogy they're talking about, I have no idea. I think the best way to like close it up for me is to do the Death of Spider-Man story from Ultimate Spider-Man, because if I had to choose like the ideal way for Peter Parker to go, that comic was it. That comic did it so well.
For those of us who
And
don't know, fill us in a little bit.
and like hmm?
For those of us who don't know that comic, fill us in a little bit.
Okay, so short recap. So doing like some sort of battle, Peter ends up taking a bullet for Captain America in his hip. And
Okay.
despite him having some, he's able to like heal himself, but not as well as like Deadpool or Wolverine and stuff. So, like he patches the wound up, and he realizes that he has to go to a hospital, but then he's also considering that if he goes to a hospital, that's it. People are gonna take off the mask; they're gonna know who he is. But as he's making that decision, he sees that the Sinister Six are going to attack his home. A home where, he has MJ, Aunt May, Gwen Stacy, and a bunch of other superheroes who are just crashing there. So instead of going to a hospital, he heads home with that bullet in his body to take down the Sinister Six, and he does. He fights them all off, including the Goblin, and it ends with him dying and telling MJ, Aunt May, and all of them that he did it. He tells them, "I saved you. I did it. I did what I wanted to do," and it ends in this really sad and yet heartwarming panel of like him and Uncle Ben like hugging each other and walking towards the light. So if you had to do it, I'd say try and do that. Obviously, you can't do Aunt May anymore because no.
Oh,
But
you could do, you can't do Uncle Ben, but you could do Aunt May of them walking into the light hugging, quote unquote.
yeah, you could do that. But what I mean is that in terms of like having that moment of I did it, I saved you. Who is it gonna be if MJ and Ned don't remember him?
Well, I mean, you can still have him. I did it. I saved you, right? Even whether they remember him or not. But let me throw this at you, right? Tom Holland said he wants Miles Morales to take over,
Yeah,
right?
but that's what I'm leading to because that comic book leads to Miles Morales' first appearance in anything as
Well,
Spider-Man.
what if
That
they
that
do
leads.
something? So basically, what if they do a thing of? This is my guess now.
Mhm.
This isn't what I think they're going. This is what I think they're going to do, not what they will do, right? So let's be clear
Sure.
about that. This is just my guess off of someone who's very much outside of the
Yeah,
Spider-Man
yeah.
fan base and
Hit
all
me.
that in
What do
lore.
you got?
So I think you have the Venom symbiote, and
Mhm.
it infects the person who's going to play Miles Morales, and it's them two versus one another, right? And Peter saves him,
That
and
could work.
somehow that you have the spider powers passed on, what have you, whatever, blah 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 blah, that nonsense. Not going
Yeah.
that deep. I don't know how that works. We'll just say that though. But and in doing so, he saves a lot of people. He saves Miles Morales, and that leads into Miles taking over the mantle from Peter at that
Mhm.
point, because it's like,
Fair.
hey, you know, there'd be a thing there of like Peter showing, maybe Miles Morales is very revenge filled for something, right? And Peter has to stop him, using what he's learned from himself, quote unquote, in the past films, right? And what he's
Yeah.
learned from other people, like there's good in everyone, and he kind of teaches Miles Morales that, and he kind of shows him that, and gets him to, you know, get away from the symbiote, or just kind of, he ends that connection there through showing him like, hey, there is another way. And then Miles, like, but in the process, like, that costs Peter's life, and so Miles decides he wants to and needs to take up the mantle from that point forward, and that's how they continue on with Spider-Man as Miles Morales.
Yeah, I
That'd
think
be
at
my
this
guess.
point,
That's my guess as to what they
doing
might do.
Miles Morales, yeah, I think at this point, doing Miles Morales is like the best way forward. The question is how they're gonna do it, when are they gonna do it? Because obviously they
I
can't
think
just have
involving
Miles there.
Venom in doing it would be an interesting way to do it, right?
Yeah, could be interesting. The question, but again, it all comes to we have no idea what the hell their plan is going forward. There's a lot of what what do they even
Yeah,
want?
there's a lot of stuff in the air right now. Basically, the only thing we have, even remotely more confirmed than anything else, is that we are at least getting one more Spider-Man film, and then it might be a sequel to No Way Home. Like,
Yeah.
that's probably the most confirmed thing we have, really.
So we'll see. But I guess until that happens, this was all for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed it. What are your thoughts about MCU Spider-Man and Spider-Man No Way Home? You can tell us all about it in the comment section below, on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C, and on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team. So until next time, I was HC.
I was Wolf.
And we will talk to you all next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.